The Elder Scrolls Online makes hefty $15 million in monthly revenue. That is crazy. That is honestly more money than the vast majority of gacha games make. Now, if this is your first time here, consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the little bell notification, that way you remain up to date with every single thing that I post, and I post daily. Do not miss out. The Elder Scrolls Online has reportedly been making a massive $15 million in monthly revenue over the years. The MMO has kept up these significant figures for more than a decade straight, showing no signs of halting. Bethesda has been pumping the game with content and expansions, which has helped it stay relevant. No one expected just how much of a moneymaker this RPG would turn out to be. Well, it's actually an MMORPG, but yeah, I'm sure many of you are thinking to yourself, I actually had no idea ESO made so much money. Recent findings show that ESO has earned a hefty $15 million in monthly revenue, but that's not the first time. The game has consistently maintained these massive figures for more than 10 years. That's actually pretty impressive. It's actually over $1 billion. Why it matters. This significant figure reveals that ESO is certainly one of the most successful MMOs. The hidden statistics for the RPG were found in Gary Boohoo's LinkedIn portfolio, a former user experience lead for the game. His profile further clarifies ESO has made over $2 billion in total revenue over the years. The revenue also includes in-game purchases, subscriptions, and expansions, and I'm also assuming the box price here. And while that is very impressive, it is not the actual topic of this video. The topic of this video comes in the way of the comment section. Scrolling down, the very top comment states they for sure aren't investing any of that into the game. And then we see this. It is wild to think that they should take a page out of Genshin's playbook. Genshin Impact, of course, is a gacha game. It is the biggest, most influential, most successful gacha game in the entire world. They make a cool bill in a month, and that's just from iOS devices, just from China. They put the money back into the game by the fistful, and they really do. Genshin, unlike MMOs, and I'm sure a lot of you actually have noticed this in WoW, in Final Fantasy XIV, in the Elder Scrolls Online, yearly, the events are exactly the same. The Halloween events, the Christmas events, Valentine's events. In Genshin, every year, the game is packed with new content, new events, new mass updates featuring entire regions, dozens of new characters with new play styles, new abilities. They put so much of what they earn back into the game and continue to expand it. By comparison, Tower Fantasy has similar revenue to ES. That is not true. That is far from true. They link to this article from a 2023 investor report a year ago, a year and a half ago. Yeah, they might have been making roughly similar revenue. Not at the end of 2024. People then go on to argue whether Tower Fantasy is an MMO or not, because you can get like a dozen, 2 dozen people fighting a world boss. And then this entire thread devolves into how essentially Genshin Impact and gacha games have destroyed the MMO genre. The amount of content and love that goes into Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail is mind-blowing. Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact are both developed by HoYoverse. HoYoverse is a multi-billion-dollar studio now. They actually make a cumulative total for Genshin Impact alone about 100 to 150 million per month, totaling mobile, console, PC. They make roughly the same for Honkai Star Rail, maybe a little bit more. These two games combined make anywhere from $200 to $300 million per month, which equates to billions per year. And that is not including the recently released Zenless, which is still far too early of a release to really speculate how well it'll ultimately end up doing, which is exactly why I've never ever been mad about the microtransactions in these games, which are optional, by the way. You can earn tons of currency just by playing the game for free. You get more than enough characters as a free-to-play, exactly, or as a low spender who only buys the monthly pass for $5, and it is a steal for the amount of content you get, which is true. They make too much content. Before we go any further, let me take a moment here to thank my incredible patrons over on Patreon and my YouTube channel members who allow for me to continue to do dedicated videos like this every single day. You guys are phenomenal, and I can't thank you all enough for the support. Now let's keep talking. Genshin is overwhelmingly huge, and Star Rail takes 15 hours just to do side events. See, this is where I think the gacha has destroyed the MMO. Gacha games, at least the bigger gacha games, release so much content, so much more content, so much better content that is easier to consume and that is just released significantly more regularly. To retain player attention, you need to continue to push out regular new content, not rehash the same thing for the 10th year in a row. I don't have any energy left because they do too much. How often have you heard an MMO player say, this MMO actually has too much? The story, there is too much story. There are too many dungeons. There are too many raids. There is just so much content I can do in this MMO. You don't, because people, they just mindlessly grind to endgame. They hit it in a couple days, and then what is the most common complaint? There's nothing to do with endgame. That right there, that is how the gacha killed the MMO. There is too much to do compared to I have nothing to do. See, MMOs are failing because we've run out of things to do in them. Gacha games are thriving because we always have things to do in them. Correct me if I'm wrong, but nowadays none of the MMOs invest their profits into themselves. Most of the time they're putting everything into the investor's pocket. Genshin adding a full long single player game of content every year in addition to dozens of hours of often voiced limited events would like to have a word. If you're right in the sense it's not an MMO and not the billions they earn every year, their reinvestment is still incredibly high. And this is pretty much it. Like the thread is just explaining how MMOs have failed compared to gacha games. And I think at the end of the day, that is a disappointing thought. Like coming to the realization that the reason MMOs are failing and the reason retention in MMOs is so low is one of the few things that gacha games actually do right. It begs a question. How haven't MMO studios come to this conclusion? How they not come to this realization? And people wonder why gacha games are so successful. Hey you, where do you think you're going? Don't you close out of this tab. I didn't give you permission to do that. Sit your ass back down. Click one of the two videos that are gonna be on screen in just a moment and keep watching my content. Keep enjoying my content.